And we are back here in the winners finals of the Kings of the North Season 4 offline qualifier. Here with Bioice versus NYK. Of course, I am still here with Rapid Casting. I am Poke Bunny. And here we go.
Indeed, we are. So let's go ahead and get into this. The map is Ascension to Ire. It's still a ZVZ. And introducing our Zerg player in the upper left-hand side. In the red, this is Sloth Esports Bioice.
And down here in the bottom right-hand corner, we have taking our last match over Sammy. It is the Pink Zerg Psystorm NYK.
And I am super excited for this. Just watching how dominant Bioice was in the first series of the day. Now coming back to him, having fought his way all the way to the winners finals. Like you said, this is a qualifying match. One of these players is going to Kings of the North. See who the king will be. It's a ZVZ, and we already watched NYK show how dominant he can be in this matchup.
Yeah, absolutely. He took two nice victories over Sammy. Although I will say, with NYK's games, it certainly has not been a cakewalk. That series versus Lightning went to game 3, and the game 3 is one that, I would say NYK really should have lost that game. Like, the cannons killing both the expansions. He was stuck on one base for like 6 or 7 minutes almost. That was just absolutely ridiculous, but he managed to pull it out in a crazy game 3. So, it certainly has not been a walk in the park for him. And I'm not going to say, he didn't earn his way there, because he definitely did. But he's had some things go his way that perhaps have been not as easy.
The stars have aligned.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
There we go.
Bioice, of course, was very dominant in his first match, and he did drop a game to Buster, but I expect he's probably felt pretty confident all the way through.
Probably, and I would say that just looking at the players who are playing in this bracket, Bioice probably has a little bit of a leg up on them. Maybe skill, maybe just experience, but it's a ZVZ, and truly anything can happen. I know we say that a lot, especially it's sort of a caster thing to say when you don't really know what you should know, but I think especially for this matchup, very, very possible. Although I think we're still being honest and saying Bioice probably has a little bit of an advantage, and especially when we consider the build orders here, it's not like either one really came out way ahead.
Right. The opening builds so far have pretty much been mirrors. I would say, one thing about Bioice is that similar to No Regret, as I mentioned in his first match, very confident in his Ling Bane control. So as a result, his ZVZ is pretty strong. I think it may be historically his best matchup. I'm not 100% sure about that. He's kind of gone up and down in various matchups, but I know he's always been pretty comfortable in ZVZ. It hasn't, it's one of those matchups that even though the timings and the openings may have changed a little bit, the nature of the matchup has been the same for a while now. So I feel like he's probably pretty confident all around, and he's actually thrown down a Spine Crawler early here, which perhaps just a result of the fact that he knows that, perhaps he's a little bit of the favorite, so he wants to keep it safe. Both of these Ling speeds going to be finishing at like the exact same time for both players. That was pretty amazing, actually. It was literally the exact same split second. But NYK does actually clean up a number of Lings over at his third. Bioice morphing a few Banelings aggressively as well. But NYK morphing some defensive Banelings. So I feel like, NYK should be able to defend this pretty comfortably. At the same time, Bioice is even on drones, so it's not going to be really an advantage for NYK, even if he does defend this, although he does have that third hatch up earlier, which is not insignificant, but before it gets saturated, it's not, not the hugest deal if you don't have that third hatch right up.
Decent trades taking out quite a few of Bioice's Banelings, especially with that third base on the way. Even that's just going to be Larva. A big advantage here for NYK, doing a great job holding on so far.
Yeah, NYK still got a number of Banelings himself, so he should be able to defend. A few Banelings for Bioice are getting into the mineral line and will take out a few drones. 4 drones going down for NYK, but he did start building those drones a little bit earlier than Bioice did. And in fact, Bioice is not even building any drones here. NYK going to be going up to about 30, while Bioice is sitting on 26.
Now, this might get a little bit dangerous just because not only is Well, dangerous for Bioice. He's committed to a lot of Zerglings early, and he's going to lose this Overlord, and that's just you know, a lot of resources that could be attacking. And look at these Banelings. Wow, some missed opportunities here for NYK.
Right, when you're already kind of down a little bit, you know, in terms of drones and trying to make the damage happen, losing just an Overlord, it really makes a difference because you need every bit of money to keep that aggression going. And Bioice does seem to have the advantage in unit count over here, and he's sneaking into the main. The Queen may fall. Looks like NYK once again struggling a little bit to keep up with his injects as he's floating a bit of money, and that Queen had quite a bit of energy. But he is going to manage to clean up all of these units in the main, and I mean, but at the same time, it looks like enough damage was done.
Yeah.
That Bioice is going to take a significant drone lead. I misread the drone numbers and thought they were the opposite, and was about to the completely incorrect narrative.
Well, I mean, there is an earlier hatchery, which means maybe more larva total overall. There's already a queen there injecting it, so NYK might still have a slight economic advantage once he drones back up. And he does have a bunch of Zerglings and Banelings here to not only attack but protect the Zerglings attacking the hatchery. Great Baneling hits. Oh my God, this is gonna be so difficult to save this hatchery, but instead of going for it, he turns around and will instead try to trade out Zerglings into these Banelings and head back at it.
Yeah, it looks like Bioice's third base is going to go down. He does have a few of his own lings on the other side at the third, making a counterattack. Going to take out a queen and a drone, so not some, not going to go without any counter damage. And actually, it looks like Bioice has pushed the lings away from the third, but with these Banelings, I think it will be enough. And wow, big Baneling connect for NYK.
God, the Zergmanity taking out not only the Zerglings but also the third base. And now Bioice almost no longer has the army advantage. He does have a worker lead, but he's missing that crucial third base.
Yeah, I mean, I would say at this point, having the extra drones is probably more significant than the third base because, you know, of course, without the drones, the third hatch is really just a production base. And with 22 drones, you know, you don't really have the money to make use of this extra production. But at the same time, NYK's got a pretty large count of lings. Bioice has transitioned to roaches, so he may be a little bit vulnerable in this window before his roach count gets big enough. But intelligently, he's gotten a few banelings just to protect these roaches. We saw this really play an impact in Sammy versus NYK game 1, where, you know, even though Sammy got a significant count of roaches, the lings were just able to overrun the roaches without the protection of the banelings. So we'll see if NYK is able to make the same kind of thing happen here. Where he's able to get the lings on the roaches after the banelings have already, maybe had some weak connections.
Well, it's going to be very, very difficult. There is some advantage. Maybe Bioice will be able to leverage having that Spore Crawler in the home field defender's advantage with the roach numbers coming out. But, I mean, the longer there is in the third base, the longer NYK pulls ahead. And you can see the supply definitely in Bio's favor, but for how long? Right.
I mean, at the same time, Bioice has managed to keep his drone lead despite the fact that he doesn't have that extra base up. NYK is just now beginning to saturate the third. So this is really where the third base advantage really starts to kick in because Bioice is only now starting his third. So it's going to be like, about a minute and a half where NYK is mining his third and Bioice is not. But I think Bioice is still okay with this. He's gonna have that lair earlier, that roach speed. NYK his lair is only now halfway done, while Bioice already has roach speed and +1 well underway. So I think what Bioice will do here is he'll go for a timing when this +1 and speed finish on the roaches, and I think that will be very hard for NYK to deal with because the lings will become much less effective against +1 speed roaches than they are against just normal roaches. And especially with the 4 banelings that Bioice still has available to him to kind of protect his roaches from the lings. And he'll have Bioice will have a significant advantage in the roach battle as well with the speed and +1.
Certainly will. Now just pushing out across the map, taking his third behind us at the same time, just now coming up, and the lings perfectly in position to take this third base out. I really feel like this is where you have to commit by Bioice. You're going to bring your huge roach army to bear on a base that's actually already damaged for NYK, so that'll go down very quickly.
Right, so Bioice's third will fall, but it seems inevitable that NYK's third will fall as well. His Roach Force is significantly smaller without the speed and +1. Yeah, he's not even going to make an attempt. He's going to drop this hatchery. Too bad that he didn't manage to get these drones away before the hatchery did fall, but maybe just getting every last mineral out of that base could just be better since he's going to have his main and natural saturated regardless. But the danger is not over yet. The Roaches move into the natural, and this Roach Force is just overwhelming with +1 and speed. Much more maneuverable, much more powerful in a straight-up fight, and it looks like it's just going to be enough to take the game.
Wow. Bioice at a huge disadvantage after having his third base taken out, but knows perfectly how to come back. +1 speed roaches across the map, even stacks his own third base, and too much of a committal there by NYK to take it out. Not enough back at home to defend.
Right, yeah, I mean, there wasn't a whole lot NYK could have necessarily done there. I mean, with the speed and the +1 for Bioice, there was no way for him to catch up in the, the tech department, and I don't think he had enough drones to really bust out a much bigger army early enough because he, was playing catch up in the drone count so that he could take advantage of that third base. So, even though it looked like Bioice was in a bad spot without that third base, the way that he had his tech timed out, there just wasn't any good way for NYK to deal with it while also catching up in drones. NYK could have possibly built enough to deal with the attack, but then he would have not really been taking any advantage of his third base.
It's very true. I think a lot of very in-depth sort of ZVZ, seeing the matrix and how it works going on there that maybe we don't fully understand, but certainly a guy like Bioice is going to be able to see through everything, and did so successfully enough to bring out a victory in game number 1. Now we get a chance to head into yet another game of Zerg versus Zerg. This time it'll be on the map Mech Depot. However, with 2 Zergs, I doubt we'll see either Mech or Depots here on this map. So let's go ahead and introduce our players. Spawning down the lower left-hand side of Mech Depot in the pink, as Zerg, it is Bioice.
And up in the top right corner here on Mech Depot, we have our red Zerg, NYK. So yeah, as you mentioned, it definitely seems like Bioice, even though it looked like he might have been in a bad spot, he kind of had that that vision of what he needed to do to win. He knew, even though he lost his third, he was like, okay, this is the advantage that I have, and this is how I can use it to come back. And he was able to do that quite successfully and just take the game with a pretty decisive roach attack.
Yeah, a great job doing that, and I think that's why you see a lot of these games digress into just massive roach on roach, just because for that time in the game, there's just not a lot that is stronger. So especially when you go for that +1. Now, we've seen +1 melee for Zerglings just not work out in our series that got NYK here to this winner's finals. But +1 range with the roaches across the map, pretty strong. So neither player going for super early aggression here in our next game of the series, but I feel like that's a lot of respect being shown on both sides, and should mean that we set ourselves up for a pretty good game.
Yeah, no shenanigans this time around. Just a hatch gas pool on both sides, going to be getting that ling speed, etc. It'll be interesting to see, if either player makes any sort of changes from the last game. Last game I would say was a pretty standard ZVZ overall. Both players made pretty conventional choices. Bioice once again going for this really early spine. Maybe this is a response to the fact that the Overlord scouting distance is pretty long. You can sneak Zerglings around the other side of the map. On this map, there are 2 equidistant paths from natural to natural. So, you don't really have to take the long way around if you're going for an early Zergling attack. So maybe this is just a response to the fact that he would not be able to see such an attack coming. So he's just like, okay, I'm going to accept that maybe I feel more confident in a macro game, so I'll take the loss of 1 drone and a bit of early minerals just to make sure I get to that point. But it is significant, as you can see. I mean, looking at the drone count, NYK already up 4 drones and getting that third base earlier.
Yes, certainly NYK is going to have that advantage, but sometimes it's not even about the bases you get up, the bases you take down. Can be about just the tech and the decision making.
Right.
Bioice was on top of that I believe they also switched colors for this game. Okay, that's also confusing.
Yeah, a little bit.
Sometimes that's what matters.
Yeah, maybe it's the color magic. Maybe NYK can take it now that he's in the red.
Well, he's been playing pink this whole tournament, so it's been good enough to get him here.
Yeah. Bioice looks like he is positioning to take his own third. Hasn't quite grabbed it just yet. He does actually not really have enough money, and it looks like he is just producing Lings and Banelings. I'm not sure if he's really going to be able to make anything happen here. NYK morphing his own Baneling. Seems like he's got the advantage on the Ling count here in the middle of the map, despite the fact that he has Turn, Tail, and Run. But yeah, I mean, Bioice has a few more drones, but it looks like NYK should have enough units to deal with this. But the Banelings are going into the natural for Bioice, and NYK might be completely caught off guard. They're going all the way. Oh my
god! Is this how he dies?
Oh,
looks like the answer is yes. 16 drones taken out.
I mean,
NYK knocked back to the Stone Age.
Yeah, I mean, at this point, NYK is basically all in. Don't be fooled by this third hatch. There is no economy to speak of. He does get a nice Baneling connection, and Bioice's Banelings are awfully clumped up. He needs to be really careful here as he's relying on these Banelings for defense, but he pulls back behind the spine, and as long as he can keep these drones and Banelings alive, I mean, Bioice can cancel this third. I mean,
yeah, and he's going to immediately. Great call there, just recognizing it doesn't matter how many bases your opponent has. If he loses all of his drones early on, it's just the ramp is just so much slower. So Bioice once again gets the spine at his natural, says, okay, I got the damage done that I needed to. Time to pull back, hunker up, and I wouldn't be a bit surprised to see him want to go up to roaches at this point.
Yeah, he does have that roach warren down at the natural, so he will have that tech available to him if he so chooses to make those roaches. NYK has built his way up to about 24 drones, and, you know, it looks like he's got enough of a standing army that he should be able to hold off these Lings with his own Ling Bane. Bioice running into third takes a decent Baneling hit from NYK there. There should be enough Banelings here to clean up these Lings, as well as the ones in the main. So it looks like NYK will stabilize with the third base. Down only about 7 drones now, so it's not quite game over, but Bioice has established his own third at this point, and it's going to be tough as NYK here to make the right balance of Lings and drones to make sure that you don't die, but you also can leverage this third base. This is kind of like the last game, and Bioice once again, with that earlier roach tech, with that earlier lair, he does have a later evolution chamber. So it won't be that advantage this time around. NYK already starting the +1 range, as well as getting his own return. So this might actually end up stabilizing and turning into a more even game.
I mean, it definitely could. We have the same potential in our last game. Bioice just knew exactly when to pull the trigger and head out onto the map. This time, though, it's NYK with faster +1 for his roaches, not going to let the same thing happen.
Right, yeah, I mean, in other ways, though, it is still kind of similar. You know, NYK down in the drone count, but got that third base much earlier. So Bioice, taking those extra gases earlier, leveraging the fact that, he has more drones, but he's stuck on 2 base, so perhaps oversaturating his minerals is not the answer, but getting a little bit more gas here. But at this point, he's got his third done, still up in the drone count, so he's going to be able to drone that third, and I would say Bioice is probably still at a slight advantage here going into the mid game.
Maybe slight, especially after getting all those drones down. You're just going to see the effects of that throughout the course of the game. The hallmarks of that will be there. Even worker count now, able to re-drone all the way up there, but now you can see really the effect that that's had, spending all that larva on workers for NYK. Bioice just way ahead in the army supply.
Right, yeah. Bioice just managing to switch over to army production a little bit earlier since he had that worker count lead. Early on, he will have a few extra roaches here. It'll be interesting to see what choices these players make from this point on. I mean, they've both stabilized. Bioice definitely has the slight lead, so he can choose to attack and try to leverage that lead into ending the game, or he can choose to take another base and perhaps tech to something other than roaches. We could see hydras, we could see infestors. Definitely some options here for Bioice as he has the slight lead, but it doesn't really seem like he's going to be able to use that lead to end the game, most likely. Although, he does have roach speed while his opponents has not even started.
Yeah, that is a big advantage. I think the +1 is really going to be what makes the big difference, though.
Yeah.
More roaches versus less roaches is always great, but when every roach deals more damage, that's also a multiplicative advantage.
Right. NYK does seem to be feeling the heat a little bit, throwing down some spines and morphing all his lings into banelings, even though, obviously lings or banelings are not the most effective against roaches. If you get a good number and the roaches are clumped up, they can, sort of push the balance in your favor if you have no other choice. But Bioice moving forward with these speed roaches, and the speed roaches will be able to kite the banelings if he's able to micro effectively. He's moving into the drone line. I don't know, this might make it a little tough to position against the banelings, and it looks like the banelings are going to get some solid connections, so Bioice probably won't be able to just straight up break through here with the spines finishing as well. I'm not sure if I feel like Bioice is overcommitted a little here.
Yeah, he certainly has. And even though banelings aren't that great against roaches, when they get insane AoE, that's multiplicative value again.
Absolutely. And those spines, Bioice could have just run through the bottom and taken out the spines on the way with the roaches, but he chose to go into the drone line and try to get more significant damage. He did get 7 drones, so taking a look at the worker count again, it is 59 to 46, and Bioice has established a Hydralisk Den. So in the long run, Bioice's army will probably be more effective, and without Roach Speed, NYK might not actually have the opportunity to punish you. He still hasn't even started Roach Speed, which is a little bit baffling. He does have a lair. I was checking, I just making sure. I thought I saw him get that lair, but yeah, it is up.
There it is. Wow.
So NYK has moved across the map, but without that Roach Speed, it doesn't really seem like there's much he can do. He's rallying roaches across the map awfully slowly. Bioice now getting his Hydra speed range upgrade, and if he augments this army with 5 or 6 Hydras, as he is now doing, once that speed range finishes and they're able to fire from behind the roaches, it really tips the advantage even further in his favor.
It does. We're starting to get up close to max already. 150 for really both players around there. I don't know really what the next step is. It's all about how much you commit to either Hydras or Ravagers. It looks like for Bioice pushing out, he does have a decent number of both. I guess really only 2 Ravagers, but on the other side, we're actually seeing many more Ravagers being built here for NYK. I don't think, does he have Hydra Tech?
No. It actually looks like we do have Bioice moving in as his +2 finishes up, as well as the Hydra upgrade. So even though his army is maybe roughly the same size and he has he's fighting into the defender's advantage, he might just have enough with this superior tech and the upgrades. Bile's going off on both sides. It looks like no really major connections coming out for either player, and Bioice is, it's going to trade out, and I'm not sure if he's going to be able to completely break through, but I think he's going to get the upper hand of the trades if he does not just completely end the game here, which he actually very well may.
Very well may indeed. There's forced to pull the drones there. NYK just trying to hold on for dear life, but these Hydras so fast to make it across the map. It's Bioice that'll take out NYK.
Yep, just barely had enough units to break through there. Really good decision making by Bioice from start to